of the Always Believe House. Oh, we're about to have FUN, 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 because we're going to do the test review, your third test of the first 6 weeks, and it's over functions. So a magical whiteboard appears. Let's start rocking and rolling over these functions. Remember, functions are made of domains and ranges. The input is the domain, the output's the range. I'm going to go through this piece of cake, okay? So I'm going to zoom in. On a problem like this would be a discrete function. The dots aren't connected. All of the x's would be the domain. All the y's would be the range. It's easier if you make a t-chart on this. So make an xy t-chart and go from the left to the right, okay? So my first dot's right here. On x is at -3 and -4. The ordered pair would be -3, -4. If I go from left to right, my x's will be in order, okay? That's why I'm doing this. The next dot's right here. It's at -2 and 5. So -2 and 5 is that order pair. The next dot left to right is, let's just do this one. Okay, it's going to be at 1, -2. And then we have this one, which is at 1, 3. And then we have this one, which is at 4, 0. So I have all my order pairs. Notice that this x repeats. This would not be a function with it. But these numbers are my domain. So I need -3, -2, -1, or +1, and +4, right? So -3, 2, 1, and 4. This one would be incorrect. This is correct, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong, okay? Because of the 2 1s. You only write each one once, and this right here would be the range. It would go technically from smallest to biggest, so I'm going to put my range would be -4, -2, 0, 3, and 5, and it's right here at it. So this one here matches up. Remember, if one of the domains or ranges repeats, you only use the number ones. This would not be a function because a vertical line, the x repeats, doesn't it? Okay, so this discrete function would not be a function because the x's repeats, but we can easily get the domain and range by making a t-chart, okay? All the x's, all the y's, okay? Number 2, okay, on number 2, please use your calculator for this. So we're going to graph 2x minus 1, and then you hit Control-T and go to this number, okay? You want to get your x and y, okay? So we're going to graph and go to Control-T. So I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to hit Home, and Home, I want to graph, and I want to graph 2x minus 1. So I'm going to graph it 2x minus 1, hit Enter. I have my graph. I'm going to hit Control-T, and now that I want my 5 donuts, so I'm going to hit the left arrow button, go down to 5. Notice if the x is 5, the right number is 9 in it. So an input of 5, output's 9. I'm going to go to my paper here. If I input 5, 2 parentheses 5 minus 1, if I do this math, I'll get 9. The calculator automatically gets you the answer though. So if you use the calculator, you won't make a mathematical error. Let's go to the next one. On this one right here, we're going to use nsolve to get the number, and then I'm going to show you a trick, okay? This was on the last test. So we're going to use nsolve, and we're going to replace that greater than with an equal, aren't we? So we're going to go to our calculator. I'm going to hit Home and A to calculate, and then I'm going to hit menu 3, 1, and then I'm going to put in the equation 2x minus 5 equals, and then I got 4x plus 1, and then I need to put comma x, don't I? Comma x, hit Enter, and I know my number's -3 in it. So I'm going to go to my paper. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to put 0, and then I'm going to put -3. Now I'm going to show you a trick here. Look at your x's. You have a 2x and a 4x. The 4x is bigger. If the larger x is on the right, it flips. So we have more, the value of x on the right is more than the value of all the x on the left. This is going to flip. So I need the less than symbol, so I need this arrow tip. I need an open dot, and the arrow's going to go left in it. So if the value of x on the right is larger, this inequality will flip. Okay? If the larger value is on the left, it won't flip. Y'all got it? You're going to have a problem on the test. Just like this, if the bigger value's on the right, you flip the inequality. You can still do the true or false by plugging in the 0, but learn that trick, okay? Go to the next one, number 4. Is this a function, okay? Underline your x's. Notice that this x, if this x repeats, it is not a function. Why is it not a function? The x repeats. Remember, you write down x repeats or x does not repeat, don't you? So in that problem right there, you have two ordered pairs with 6. You can't have 6 as -1 and 6 as 5, so it's not a function. Go to the next one. Okay, we're given a set of 1, 2, 3 ordered pairs, and I'm going to circle my x's. Okay, which of the following points will not make a function? So which one of these can we plug in to make it not a function? The x has to be -3, -4, or 0. So which one has a -3, a 4, or a 0? This would work, this would work, this would work, but right here the -3 repeats with it. This would make it not a function. So if you don't want a function, the x has to repeat. In this problem, the -3 would repeat with it. Number 4, same thing. We're going to graph, and then we're going to do Control-T. Okay, so let's go to our calculator. We're going to hit home. We're going to hit graph. Home and B. Sorry about that. Okay, now then, if you have a graph on your calculator, I have a table. If you hit Control-T again, it disappears the table, and then delete, delete, delete 3 times, and it deletes all the graphs. Think of something bad, like, I wish we could have 3-day weekends every week, but we can't. That kind of makes me mad. So I'm going to hit delete, 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 and notice it gives me an option to delete all the graphs. Now then, to get a new graph in, I need to hit the tab button, and that lets me graph another graph, okay? And now I need to graph -3x minus 5. -3x minus 5. Hit enter. Then I'm going to hit the Control-T, and I got my table. Now then, I want -2. So I'm going to go to the x, and I'm going to go up to the -2, aren't I? If I input -2, I will output a +1. Piece of cake. Please don't miss that. So I'm going to go to my paper. If I input -2, so if I have 3x minus 5, and if I input -2 right here, I will output a +1. The calculator will do all the math for you, okay? So the +1 would be the answer. Turn the page, okay? Number 7. Which of the following does not represent a function? If it's not a function, the x needs to repeat, okay? If it is a function, the x cannot repeat. So we want to find the one with the x that is repeating. Underline your x's here. None of those repeat. This is a function. What about this one? None of the x's repeat. This is a function, okay? Now then we're down to 2 more. A vertical line test. None of this is happening twice in it. This is a function. And then right here, this 8 repeats. This 8 goes to the 2, and it also goes to the 4. So this is not a function because the 8 repeats. Okay? So on this table here, notice you got ordered pairs, you got a table, you got a graph, and you got a mapping diagram. You need to know how to look at those, see which one's a function and not, and know the domain and range. Okay, number 8, state the domain. The domain is the x's. So 0, -4, 5, 4, 6. Okay? And you put the domain from least to greatest, okay? And you only write down each number once. If the domain repeats, it's not a function, is it? So let's do this. I'm going to draw a brace. You always draw a brace for a set of numbers. My smallest x is -4. The next smallest x is 0. The next smallest x is 4, and then 5 and 6 in it. This would be my domain. It's just the x values, right? and it's from least to greatest. So make sure you're able to sort it from least to greatest. We are almost done. Oh. Very important on this one. Please write this down. The domain goes from left to right. The range will always go bottom to top. You always go least to greatest. So look at this one. Our domain is going to be the x's, and our range is going to be our y's. Let's do our domain first. The graph starts here and ends here. So on the domain, it starts here and goes to here, doesn't it? The domain goes from, and let's put this, we don't have any room over here. Let's just write it out. The domain goes from 0 to 50, doesn't it? You would put an x, and it has closed dots you would put less than or equal to. So it's all the numbers between 0 and 50. I'm going to switch colors. My range would go from here to here. The range would go from 0 to 100, wouldn't it? So the domain goes from 0 to 50, and the range goes from 0 to 100. So right here, this is wrong. All the real numbers greater than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 50, that's correct. All the real numbers greater than or equal, less than or equal to 100, that's right. And this right here is flipped. This should be 50 and this should be 100. These are incorrect, okay? So the domain goes from left to right. The range goes from bottom to top. C would be your choice right here. The domain goes from 0 to 50 and the range goes from 0 to 100. What a great, great day. Y'all are going to do wonderful on your test. Keep believing in who you are, and great things will happen to you. This is a pretty simple test. Just remember, the domain is the possible x's, and the range is the possible y's. And always remember, you are amazing, you are created to do wonderful things, and you are awesome.